Over the past week or two, race hysteria in the WNBA has somehow reached yet another inflection point. The league is currently in the midst of what really might be the single most contrived racism scandal, certainly in any professional sport, at least since the fake noose in Bubba Wallace's garage. Specifically, a bunch of WNBA players have come out claiming that they've been victimized by racial slurs and other forms of racist attacks. Like a lot of players are claiming this. In other words, they're now accusing the people who have started showing up to WNBA games for the first time in more than 2 decades of being horrible.
This time, Alyssa Thomas went too far, and her supporters won't forgive her for saying something so foolish about racism to Caitlin Clark. Trust me, it's humiliating.
Speaking of relationships, Alyssa Thomas, during the playoffs, she spoke out and condemned her.
Who could overlook her incredible performance?
Honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly.
Even though it's old news now, let's marvel at how, like a real queen of boldness, she didn't even bother to apologize this time. Instead, she simply took full responsibility for the garbage she spewed.
You women out there, y'all petty, man. Hey, LeBron, you're 100% right on these girls hating on Caitlin Clark. Y'all petty, girls. I expect men to be petty because we're the most insecure group in the world. Oh, you are. Y'all should be thanking that girl for getting y'all ass.
However, this time, the media experts truly made the decision to stand up and take serious action because racism isn't unique to Caitlin Clark or her supporters. It's ingrained in these so-called players' thoughts, and believe me, I'm prepared to expose her with all of my last strength.
You have to be careful when you say, like, the Fever fans, because I don't think it's the Fever fans. I think it's the people that wanted Caitlin Clark to be a certain type of way, and they thought that she was, and so they became Caitlin Clark fans, assuming that, and then they realized, like, oh, no, she's actually not.
It all began when Thomas publicly criticized Caitlin Clark's fan base for what she called racial animosity. This wasn't a casual remark. Rather, it was a full-on, gloves-off critique of the prejudices and double standards that were hiding behind the league's glitzy exterior. In all honesty, it was necessary to say this because if we're all applauding for equality while ignoring the obvious racial dynamics at work, then what are we even doing? Alyssa Thomas used her annoyance at how she and her teammates were treated as a rallying cry rather than just a personal grudge.
We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly.
And if you think this happened suddenly, it's time for a reality check. This controversy started when fans accused Carrington of being unsportsmanlike after that famous eye poke on Clark. It started out as the typical internet frenzy we've seen a million times before it suddenly took a sharp turn with some glaring racial undertones, at which point Alyssa Thomas decided she'd had enough. She didn't just defend her teammate, she tore the lid off and revealed the ugly truth behind the...
A little bit of a shoulder there. Not a little bit, a lot of a shoulder there for Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah, they're not going to look at this. I thought they might.
Why is it that when a black player displays fire, they are labeled aggressive, but when someone else does the same, it's just termed passion? This question should make you cringe. Alyssa Thomas wasn't afraid to call attention to this unfair treatment. Carrington was called unsportsmanlike by Clark's supporters, but would they have acted similarly if roles were?
Honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base.
Thomas's remarks were not unexpected. According to her, this is about a pattern rather than just one play or game. When black athletes are subjected to harsher criticism and their passion is viewed as a threat rather than equality. Thomas made the decision to bring this type of bias into the open since it has been ignored for far too long.
Careful when you say, like, the Fever fans, because I don't think it's the Fever fans. I think it's the people that wanted Caitlin Clark to be a certain type of way, and they thought that she was, and so they became Caitlin Clark fans, assuming that, and then they realized, like, oh, no, she's actually not.
The conflict between Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas has taken an unexpected turn, and this time it's not about basketball statistics or game strategies. Instead, Alyssa Thomas chose to use Caitlin Clark as the focal point of a contentious racial discussion, bringing up Clark's name in a discussion she didn't request. As usual, Thomas didn't hold back, and social media naturally went into overdrive. But let's examine this. Was it Thomas's criticism of racism in the WNBA fair, or was it just another instance of misdirected annoyance? Without a doubt, one of the most captivating players to ever grace the WNBA is Caitlin Clark. Although she is a household name thanks to her dynamic gameplay, sharp shooting, and court commanding skills, Alyssa Thomas appears more concerned in criticizing Clark's rising celebrity than recognizing her unquestionable talent.
Almost felt like the WNBA wasn't ready for what Caitlin Clark was going to bring with.
Thomas has accused the NBA of overemphasizing players like Clark while undervaluing black athletes. However, let's be clear, Clark's ascent isn't the result of some covert plan. Rather, it's because she delivers. She earned her place at the top with incredible performances that fans can't get enough of, and if the league is giving her the recognition she deserves, perhaps that's because she's the one drawing in the crowd. Being a fierce competitor on the court has been Alyssa Thomas's career, but her off-court court antics are a different matter. She has recently spoken out against the league's purported racial inequities in player marketing. Caitlin Clark and other argumentative artists are given greater attention because to their race rather than their skill.
Ball is headed in a great direction, but nah, we don't want fans that are going to degrade us and call us racial names. I mean, we already see what's happening in the world and what we have to deal with in that aspect. And, we come to play basketball for our job and it's fun, but
this is the problem. Thomas's remarks come out as sour grapes rather than contributing significantly to constructive conversations about equality. The system was not developed by Caitlin Clark, and she has no influence over the league's marketing plans. Not only is it unfair, but it is also lazy to hold Clark responsible for systemic problems. Thomas frequently draws attention to what she refers to as double standards, in the way that white athletes like Clark are praised for having the same qualities as black athletes, while black athletes are branded as being excessively aggressive. However, the truth is Caitlin Clark is well known because she provides evidence to support her claims.
To latch on to Caitlin Clark and then use her as, this fuel to be able to be the way that they want it.
Not to mention that Clark receives a good deal of criticism as well. Critics have dubbed her conceited and haughty while conveniently ignoring her performances that have broken records. The reality is that being a public figure involves both acclaim and criticism. Perhaps Alyssa Thomas should concentrate more on improving her skills than controlling how her rivals are portrayed in the media. Aside from her extraordinary talent, Caitlin Clark stands out for her ability to maintain composure when Alyssa Thomas stirs up controversy. Clark has demonstrated that she is not only a star but also a class act by letting her game do the talking and refusing to participate in back-and-forth exchanges.
It needs to be done, whether it's, them checking their fans or this league checking. There's no time for it.
Although Thomas claims to be calling out injustice, one has to question what Clark is actually doing to bring about change. Clark's silence isn't complicity. Rather, it's maturity. She understands that getting involved in these arguments would only divert attention from her goal of playing basketball. Although her criticisms are loud, they frequently lack depth. Criticizing the NBA's marketing only serves to further divide players rather than addressing the actual obstacles that black sportsmen confront.
You don't want to go to work every day and have social media blown up over things like that. It's uncalled.
If Thomas is so worried about inequity, perhaps she should concentrate on finding solutions rather than pointing fingers at players who have done nothing wrong. Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be at the center of this controversy. She has worked hard for her success and shouldn't have to apologize for it. It's difficult to overlook Alyssa's underlying jealousy. Thomas's remarks, it's obvious that Thomas isn't delighted about sharing the limelight after Caitlin Clark's meteoric climb, but rather than taking inspiration from her success, Thomas has opted to discredit her.